Welcome back to Tabletop Assault. I'm Ross, and today I'm going to continue my segment on analysing the Necron Codex. Today we're going to have a look at the Catan Shard of the Nightbringer. Quite a sort of infamous unit within the Necron Codex, mainly because, like the Catan Shard of the Deceiver, it is not necessarily these sort of mechanical, augmented robot things that we see within predominantly the rest of the Necron Codex. These are the sort of star gods of, different parts of the Necrons. I think in the current lore they've more or less enslaved in sort of way. But there's a deep amount of lore when it comes to obviously the Catans, and obviously they play quite a different role when it comes to the Necrons as a force. How this works is I'm going to have a look at the unit itself, have a look at the stats that are on its data sheet, have a look at the war gear that is available to it along with special equipment. After that, I'm going to have a look at loadout suggestions if there is any that it can have, and speak about them. Catan powers, which are important for the Catans, obviously. I'll speak about that a wee bit because, I did cover all the Catan powers individually in my overview video, but I will speak about a wee bit about them, my preferred loadouts, etc., and a wee bit of other thoughts that are quite new concerning them, and along with stratagem recommendations as well. So with that, let's have a look at the Catan Shard of the Nightbringer. So Catan Shard of the Nightbringer is movement 8, which is fast for most things in Necrons, maybe not so much as their fast attack stuff, and the same as obviously the Deceiver. Web skill and Bliss skill 2+, so it's going to hit very, very reliably, which is what you kind of suspect. Strength 7 and Toughness 7, which means it is quite tough, and it is also swinging very, very hard. 8 wounds, which is good, says it can't be targeted. That would have been terrible for it, but a good amount of wounds to keep it going throughout the game. 4 attacks, which is not bad, better than some things, but you really wish that to maybe be a little bit higher. I'll speak about that in a bit more detail. Leadership 10, kind of what you suspect, and a 4-up armor save. In terms of weapons, it has the Gaze of Death, which is quite cool. Range 12, Assault D6, Strength Star, AP -4, and D3 damage. This always wins a 2+ unless targeting a vehicle, in which case it's 6+. And then Scythe of the Nightbringer, which is melee, Strength Star, -4 AP, D6 damage, D3 damage for the Gaze of Death, in case I said D6, but it's D6 for the Scythe, and always wins in a 2 unless targeting a vehicle, in which case it's Strength 7. Abilities are Necrodermis, which is Catan Shard of the Nightbringer, has a 4-up invul. Powers, which I think is kind of understandable. Again, you're finding many things are struggling to get a 3-up invul, certainly between the bigger things such as Demon Primarchs. They're sticking at a 4-up invul unless you do some trickery with Magnus, in which case you can get to 3+. There's not many of these things that do get to 4+ easily, unless your Catcher's rocking storm shields and everything, in which case 3+ invul, why not? Would a 3-up invul be too much for a Catan Shard? I'm not sure, but it'd certainly be lovely. Powers of the Catan and the Shard of the Nightbringer knows 2 powers of Catan. It can use one of the powers at the end of the movement phase. Not bad, so talk about Catan powers later. Reality Unravel, if the Catan Shard of the Nightbringer is ever reduced to 0 wounds, roll a d6 before removing it, and a 4+, it tears a hole in reality, and every unit within 3 inches suffers d3 mortal wounds. If you think it tears a hole in reality and the units around it only suffer d3 mortal wounds, I think that's kind of low. I think it should be d6, as a tear in the hole of reality. Kinda should be, on 3 inches is understandable, but maybe d6 damage would have been more understandable. Enslaved Star God, this model can never have a Warlord trait, because it's not a Warlord, it's not really leading Necrons, it is their slave in essence. So this part where I'm going to speak about loadout and suggest role for the Catan Shard of the Nightbringer. Now, so spoiler alert on 2 things. One, you don't really have a weapon loadout when it comes to Nightbringer. That one that you can choose. You have what you have. And to be fair, it's not bad stuff. So there's no weapon loadout. You've got what you've got. Secondly, Nightbringer does not have as cool a weapon name as Deceiver, which is Star God Fist, which is quite frankly, the coolest weapon or fist weapon punching name for a melee weapon in this game. If I'm wrong, comment below, let me know, and I will tell you why I'm right, because Star God Fist is just awesome. No, they've got Scythe of the Nightbringer, which is nowhere near as cool, but still quite possibly very, very good. So let's start with the Gaze of Death. You know what, non-awful weapon. D6 attacks with -4 AP, D3 damage, and always wounds in a 2+ except on vehicles. Tyrannids are probably going to absolutely hate this because they won't get the vehicle sort of immunity with that. Many of just about everything is going to be hit quite hard on this. However, vehicles such as Dread Knights are just going to laugh this away, even though they've got a Space Marine on the front of it. He's just going to be like, nah, don't look, and it's not going to be nearly as effective on them. And this would be a great weapon to face off against things like Dread Knights and big vehicle stuff, because they've got lots of wounds. But sadly, that is not the case. Scythe and Nightbringer brings, Scythe and Nightbringer brings a good deal of death, for the Nightbringer. Impressive stats at -4 AP, D6 damage, and always wounds on a 2+, except in vehicle it's strength 7. Simply put, again, it's awesome. Always wounding on a 2+, all but vehicles, is no drawbacks to hit, versus things that maybe do this crazy amount of damage, maybe -1 to hit. No, the Catan Shard and Nightbringer doesn't. And still, even having a strength 7 is very, very powerful, which means you will be able to threaten vehicles quite easily as well. Maybe a bit too much to ask to be strength 8, because that means you would be threatening a lot more things quite extensively when it comes to that case. But the default of 2+ to wound anything that's not a vehicle is very, very impressive. However, for all these bonuses, there are a few weaknesses to the Nightbringer. First, they're going to hate hordes. With only 4 attacks, is going to be very easy to bog down the Nightbringer with like very, very cheap units. You're looking at Orc Boys, etc. in combat, and making it very difficult for them to get any, for the Catan Shards and Nightbringer to get any real meaning if he's stuck fighting boys. I feel the Nightbringer could have very much benefited from a sweeping attack, which kind of makes sense with this sort of Scythe. That would have been really, really good, given it maybe 8 attacks with only -2 AP and 1 damage. It would allow them to do damage to large units with a bit more ease, and just give it, I believe, a bit more of a larger role in that part. The Gaze of Death also, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, I think it should be a pistol weapon rather than an assault D6 weapon. I don't know, it just feels like it should be something that can be used in combat a little bit more. It certainly is a bit more of a deadly weapon, but I feel I don't advocate pistol weapons very much. Many of them I find are not the best, but I just find that as a Gaze of Death from the eyes, a pistol weapon would be more, just a bit more thematic, and then in protracted combats it's going to be really, really good. The assault D6 maybe is more useful, because if you decide to assault, then you're going to gaze, you can do it with -1 to hit, which is fine. But I just feel it should have been a pistol weapon, kinda. I know it's not a pistol, but it's not an assault weapon. It just feels kind of weird to me, and I think just in sort of protracted combats with the Nightbringer, it would just be super, super useful, because sometimes I use it to go hunting big things, and then there's quite a bit of back and forth between it, though Magnus has seen to the death of the Nightbringer countless times against me, because Dave just loves to hunt it with Magnus or various other ones, and I just feel that a pistol might be a little bit more useful, but that's the first time I've ever advocated the use of pistols, because I don't find them the most useful, but when they've got a stat like that, maybe they would. Still, yeah, so that's just displaying a bit more of my thoughts on the weakness of Gaze of Death. The Nightbringer wants to hunt down things that are multi-wound characters, and when I say multi-wounds, it's mainly avoiding ones with the vehicle keyword, because vehicles are always going to have these large wounds, which would be a viable target for the Catan, but sometimes it wouldn't be in this case. For instance, the Gaze of Death is not going to be very good against vehicles. The Scythe of the Nightbringer, good against light vehicles. Heavier ones, it's going to be very difficult, because you're going to be wounding on 5s. So you are going to be hunting down things that are characters and such, but the danger of that is that many of these characters also, like the Nightbringer, are going to be well protected with an invul, probably anywhere in the region of a 4, 5 up, even a 3 up. And with 4 attacks, that becomes a little bit more difficult, because many of those can be ignored. Equally, 4 up invul, the Nightbringer can't ignore wounds, but it's just that very much the target is going for is probably going to have an invul, not a vehicle, and if it is a vehicle, it's going to be a lot harder challenge for the Nightbringer, even if that is, like I said, a Dread Knight, which is obviously a vehicle, but it's not really. I still think that should be subject to the Gaze of Death. Simply, the Nightbringer to me is very much a precise weapon in my eyes. You have to make sure it's moving away from the units that could present a problem, as I've listed before. The last thing you want to do is have a horde unit hold down the Nightbringer, or worse, if they have loads of attacks, kill it, which would be pretty bad. or things like even maybe Thunderhammer Storm Shields, where they're going to survive a lot of the Nightbringer's attacks, and likely with volume of attacks kill it in return, which would not be ideal. The other problem I find, such as it is slightly slower than all the other sort of fast stuff that maybe want to go with and be protected by when it comes to other assault units. So things like Wraiths and Scarabs are slightly faster and may leave the Nightbringer behind, which is not ideal because you want them to screen. And obviously they can get hit and everything, but it just means that Nightbringer can't use them for as much protection as they can. You could choose to hold them back for Nightbringer, but I don't think that's very good for their purposes either. Either way, you know, I'll cover more and sort of that sort of stuff. Simply put, Warcry-wise, these are great weapons on the right target. However, there are a lot of wrong targets to go for, and if you end up encountering them, it could spell the doom of the Nightbringer, and quite frankly, that has happened to me more than a few times. Catan powers. So this is the part I love about Catans, is they add a lot of interesting powers with their Catan abilities, and there's a variety of ways to use them that affect a variety of different units. I won't go into the powers in so much detail as I did when I did the overview videos for Necrons, which you can check out. However, I will mention the sort of go-to combinations and quick rundown of them in a bit more of a summary. So Cosmic Fire, possibly my favourite of the lot of them, is an AoE power that can attack a lot of different units around the Catan. Award an aggressive style of attack and effective if your opponent rocks many small multiple units. In the right position you can really bring a lot of hurt by just AoEing around and just like getting a lot of mortal wounds around the place, you know, and that can be quite good. An aggressive style here can make like a very good aggressive bomb with your Catan. With such a close power, you know, this one, I think the Cosmic Fire is on like 8 or 9 inches, give or take, and right round it. When you have a sort of close combat one, you also want to have a ranged one to sort of help out, and the best I find, sometimes debatable, is the Sky of Falling Stars. Handy way to sort of target multiple units, and even if, you know, most units have 5-man squads, it is still going to go off very reliably. Otherwise, Antimatter Meteor is okay because it's incredibly reliable. The only thing is you don't get, I think, as much value for it, and it it targets the closest unit to the Catan, but it does go off very reliably, like it's very likely to go off. So it is an easy go-to one if you want to make sure, but I still think Sky of Falling Stars is pretty good for what it does. Seismic Assault and Times Arrow okay as well. Times Arrow is good if you want to target characters, but you know, I mean, the Catan Shard Nightbringer wants to target them in combat and chop them to pieces or stare to them at death, so you can Catan power it as well and, you know, kill more characters, I guess. The other one is, you know, we've got Seismic Assault, and then you've got Seismic Assault, which is good against hordes, but I wouldn't count on it, to be honest. I think it's good against hordes, but I think as those units go down in strength, which they will with other stuff, then, you know, it's not going to get as much use. If you've got good dice and then there's other abilities that may affect it, then yeah, sure. But I just think for Nightbringer, maybe one of the other abilities is a little bit more reliable to cause a little bit more damage. I think this highlights the problem of Catan powers. They are all damage dealing, and you most likely take the best abilities to benefit from with your playstyle. Sure, you may be able to on occasion where you find the stratagems, you know, the command points from. So one thing I should say in this one, when it comes to the stratagems, and this is probably going to be a bit of a rant in this one, I'm not going to cover stratagems. I've already said, I think, for the Catan Shard Deceiver, I don't think they're very good. You know, you've got, I think there's 2 main ones on here, which is the Wrath of Catan, use a stratagem after Catan Shard from your army has resolved to power Catan. Roll a d6 to randomly select the power Catan from page 113. The Catan Shard may immediately use this power even if it's already been used. 2 command points. Nope, for a random ability, it may not be reliable, may only do like d3 damage for 2 command points. And then Cosmic Power, use a stratagem at the start of your movement phase, select a Catan Shard from your army. The model can replace one of its Catan powers with a different power of Catan Shard of your choice. No, that isn't ideal. That's 1 command point as well. So in terms of stratagems, I'm not very happy with the ones with Catan Shards. I think you're most likely going to choose the ones that play in your playstyle, and there may be times where you may need to switch them out or do a random ability. That's very unlikely. And I just think that is not as ideal, especially considering they're all damage dealers. You'll have them to your choice already. However, and here comes speculation time, and I don't usually do this when I'm talking about tactical talks. I don't think it's the best area to bring it up. However, I want to put it out there before, you know, Necrons come up in like Psychic Awakening, which this was filmed before Necrons had their chance in it, assuming that they will. And I think C'tans are most likely due to get like an upgrade here, where we've seen in the first round of Psychic Awakening where the target units give them different abilities to help them out, especially on the Elder side. I think C'tans are going to be very interesting in that, and if I'm saying C'tans wrong, I'm very sorry. I think they're going to get ones that are going to basically get different tables that rather than damage dealing, they may be in different ways to help. So maybe they, you know, sort of augment reality around them to help Necron forces. I don't know how, I'm just saying what I think. And then I think there's other ones that may hinder your opponents, you know, change reality to hinder your opponent. I don't know. So I would like to see different C'tan powers, as all of them being damage dealing just means that, quite frankly, you choose the ones that best suit you most of the time. But if you had ones that are different roles, then you are more likely to use the stratagems to go, well, I need to change this C'tan power because it might be more useful. Rather than doing damage, you might want to do buffs, or I might want to do hindrances. So it just adds a bit more to them than they are currently, which is just damage, 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 and just adds a bit more variety, which I think would be super exciting to see a bit more playstyles when it comes to C'tan shards or C'tans in general, because I know there's plenty of other ones I still need to review. As for Nightbringer itself, it's not bad, but an unusual weapon in this force. If used well, it can be a danger, but ultimately in a game that heavily requires on synergy between special abilities, stratagems, etc., this almost feels like a lone unit, which can be fun, but not the most competitive. I have had the Nightbringer honestly work more as a backfield protector against aggressive units trying to go after my backfield Necrons, and it just generally does act as a wee bit of a scary reminder, because the last thing you want to do is the Nightbringer picking off these units, because it is very formidable in itself. Where I wish it was more aggressive itself at times, you know, it's just that sometimes when I'm too aggressive Nightbringer, it has been easily defeated by different units, and that's not ideal. So honestly, I'm hopeful for the future when it comes to C'tans, and in certain interesting aspects of Necrons, I'm hopeful for the future of them. I think certainly when it comes to their abilities, that's going to be the most interesting one. And if the Nightbringer gets some kind of big update in the future, I really hope it gets something to cause more attacks. I think that would certainly add a huge amount of value to Nightbringer itself. At the moment, not bad, a precise scalpel to take out certain targets, but in the wrong position, it can easily be dealt with, which would be a right pain. So thanks again for watching. Please comment, share, like, and subscribe. Love to hear what people think, because I use the Nightbringer more than I use the Deceiver, because I know the Deceiver's like just before battle, sort of its main uses. But I use the Nightbringer quite a lot because I find it adds a different combat element to Necrons. However, I've seen him perish many, many times. Also seen him seen it taken out by Magnus many, many times as well, because it the Nightbringer just can't beat Magnus because he's a monster. So thanks again for watching. Check us out on Patreon, where you can obviously help support channel, bring more content, and also check us out on social media, where you can see our upcoming projects, as we have a few in production at the moment. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you on our Tabletop Assault Battle Report.